Hello, everyone. It's been a minute, but not a long one. Welcome to Vambo AI in Africa. My name is Linah Kitala. It's always a pleasure to have meaningful conversations through this platform. And today we have an awesome one. And let me tell you, when I say it's awesome, I mean it's juicy. Anyway, we have with us John Icharia from Jasiri, and I'll allow him to introduce himself. I know I've done it, but I feel like I've even butchered his second name, but he's gonna confirm. Hi, John.
Hi, Lena.
Karibu sana.
Thank you so much, and good morning, Africa. So, my name is John Icharia, so she did not butcher the name. I think she got it. She got it done well. And yes, she mentioned Jasiri. So, I am with Jasiri. Jasiri is an organization that supports high impact entrepreneurship across Africa, and we're looking to build and support the brands of tomorrow, helping our startups to be able to develop different product solutions that will create the next frontier for our continent to get to the next level.
Awesome. So how does like Jasiri go about its day to day? You've mentioned big words like, Africa next level. So yeah, how does Jasiri, what's the thought behind Jasiri? I even love the name Jasiri. For those who don't know, Jasiri is a Swahili name that means
To be bold.
To be bold. It almost has a warrior vibe to it.
Actually, we see entrepreneurs as change makers, and why we say taking Africa to the next level is because we think the entrepreneurship is the platform that will be able to help us address our biggest problems on the continent. And we've seen that supporting innovators in different spaces, different industries, to be able to navigate this problem solving is quite critical, and the impact that comes out of it is quite tremendous. And we believe passionately that entrepreneurship is the way forward. It is our platform to be able to support not just the entrepreneurs, not just the consumers or customers they work with and focus on, but largely our society as a whole.
Okay. So a term that has consistently been in your lips with what you've just shared is entrepreneurs. So who are entrepreneurs? For those who, okay, I know people have had the term, but like for someone who has not been like in an entrepreneurial space or a business space, who's an entrepreneur and what's entrepreneurship?
That's such a great question because entrepreneurs is such a large term, but it's basically anybody who's building a business that is addressing a particular problem. And if we break down the fanciness of the term, it's basically how we look at, your everyday tradesperson. This person is addressing a particular need in the market innovatively. So for us, entrepreneurship takes a slightly different lens. We look at entrepreneurs as change makers who are focused on building particular solutions that have large impact and are able to scale. So we look at supporting individuals who have different skill sets to be able to build solutions, if it's a technology-based solution, or if it's a technology-enabled solution across any industry operating at least in East Africa, and helping them navigate the journeys of building this business. We particularly at Jasiri had an interesting look on how to support entrepreneurship. And we understand that in the market of building businesses, there's definitely a large gap, especially in the early stages, where there's nobody around to help you navigate the challenges you face. There's limited access to resources. There's limited access to strategic partnerships that you potentially might need. And from this, we identified this particular gap, and we curated a program where we focus on supporting individuals looking to, one, kickstart their journey and helping them navigate these early stages that they're going through.
So is every idea viable? Because there are people who have, like, you can sit and have a light bulb moment, and you can be like, I want to translate this light bulb moment into an entrepreneurship venture, like get into market or business through this idea. So with what I'm gathering, you're saying Jasiri comes in to help you navigate the ropes of, is this idea viable? Is the solution, is what you're offering as a solution truly a solution to a problem, or
Yes.
can also be like your imagination telling you, yes, there's a problem?
So In the broader scope of entrepreneurship,
Mm-hmm.
ideas have different levels of viability. So
Mm.
at Jasiri, we sort of double click on ideas and problems that are focused on what we call non-consumption.
Okay.
So we look at different areas of supporting entrepreneurs who are looking at addressing needs of people who are not currently able to access, whether it's goods or services, just based on certain barriers. And the typical barrier that we come across is, of course, affordability, and in most cases, it is also accessibility. So how are these people not able to consume these particular products, services that are already existing in the markets, and looking at seeing what innovations can come out to be able to help them bridge this gap. So Jasiri, the philosophy of non-consumption is core to how we support entrepreneurs and the type of entrepreneurs we particularly support. And by helping them understand the essence of non-consumption, in this essence, if you look at the African market, there's a large population in whatever industry you want to pick that is currently not consuming the solutions and services that are already ready in the market. If you look at healthcare, for example, we have a large population that is currently not able to access basic healthcare needs. If we look at financial services, we have a large unbanked population. And looking at some of the solutions that would be coming out of this, as long as we have non-consumption at the center, we are passionate to help support these entrepreneurs. And our entrepreneurship support does not particularly focus on just the resources, but it also focuses on different elements that are non-financial. For example, helping you to understand the regulatory environment you play in, helping you to understand what strategic partnerships you might need, helping you to understand how to engage with the target market that you're looking to serve. And by bringing together all of these different buckets, we're then looking to help sort of provide a very holistic support where we're setting you up for success in whatever industry you're looking to provide solutions for. And in that essence, we're looking to transform not just entrepreneurship in this particular area, but transform our society as a whole.
So I heard key three pillars. Who do you need to support you in your entrepreneurship journey? Who's your target market? And what's the regulation around what you're building as a solution? So how do those three pillars affect someone who's like in an entrepreneurial space? So let's start with your target market. Is everyone are you building business for everyone? Everyone can bring you money.
I think in the case of Jasiri and what we look at, not everybody can't be your consumer. It would be great if you have such a large market, but we have sort of a more focused approach. So definitely you do need to do your market research and understand, deeper what are your target market's needs. We're not looking for solutions that are just the next version of what exists or the next best thing or incorporating already what's the next technology to use, but we're looking at change makers. We're looking at things that are revolutionary, especially for those who currently can't access these solutions. And for you to be able to do that, the first part is to identify who these people are. What is the size of the market? Where are they found? What are they going through? What does it mean for them to be able to not leverage what already exists? What pain points does this bring to them? And from this level of understanding, putting yourself, typically in their shoes, in their everyday life, you understand what solutions then could mean for them. You understand the value that it can create for them. And you now start to understand that broadly, you're not just looking at the market as, some numbers on a very nice pitch deck, but you're actually looking at them as individuals and understanding the stories behind each and every one of them. And once you navigate this, you do your research, you get to the ground, as we like to say, you unearth deeper problems that maybe, the next best desktop research won't give you. From this, you're able to now start to think through what is some of the value-based, what is some of the things they would look, what are some of the things dear to them. And this is how you create that value buy-in from them. And once you have your target market, then you start to look at what space are you playing in? That takes us to the broader environment. What are some of the challenges within this space? So you may have a ready market that definitely is not consuming for whatever reasons that you've already found, but maybe the environment is not friendly to you. Maybe you're not able to sort of scale, or you're not able to build any solutions just because regulation does not yet understand this kind of innovation. And if you look even just in terms of our space right now, having conversations about AI. And I'm sure you can speak to Vambo AI's journey and how it's navigated, being able to scale in Southern Africa, coming into East Africa. Definitely there's challenges you faced, especially trying to get people who would then be on the other side of regulation, those who would be granting you licenses to even understand, what is your vision for Vambo AI? What is it trying to do? Who is it trying to serve? And this is a very, very major roadblock that we see a lot of entrepreneurs facing, especially due to some of the innovations that are coming out and the lack of understanding and the lack of clarity on what this actually means for the people. It builds that level of rigidity, especially for those you wouldn't support what you don't know. Right. And we have governments in that space where at least we're seeing a level of change, especially in Kenya being very, very receptive to, startups. We've seen the development of a startup act, which is, a very big milestone. And we're hoping to see this, trickle down into other African countries so that we're building a platform where it's enabling, a platform where everybody who believes in solving a particular problem is well supported to bring their visions to life.
Awesome. We were having a chitty chat behind the scenes, and there's something you mentioned that really caught my attention. You said for every entrepreneur, what is important is not for them to love the solution, but to love the problem.
100%.
What does that mean?
To love the problem means to be able to keep the curiosity fire in you burning, to be able to understand deeper what this challenge is and what it means for the people going through this challenge. Many a time we have entrepreneurs who love the solution, and this becomes the first sort of pitfall towards their progression and potentially even their success. And the reason for this is because once your solution is overtaken by other elements, whether it's the next technology, whether it's regulation, whether it's, just absorption into the market, then you start to have challenges navigating. So you start to have self-doubt. Is what I'm doing making sense? Why are people not, buying in as fast as I thought they would? Why are people not, engaging with my product or service? Is there something wrong with it? And on the basis of the solution, you will start to ask yourself those questions. On the basis of the problem, maybe you're not asking yourself the right questions. You're saying, is my solution actively keeping up with what's happening on the ground? And once you fall in love with the problem, you're able to adapt, you're able to be agile, you're able to pivot, you're able to move to where the market is directing you. And the reason for this is we have, the dynamics of society changing all the time. We have generations coming in. What was possibly viable for Gen X didn't make sense for millennials, and definitely wouldn't make sense for Gen Zs, right? But you can't have fallen in love with the Gen X solution hoping to market it to Gen Zs.
True.
But if you fell in love with the problem that was potentially affecting Gen X's at a particular stage, it could be relevant to Gen Zs. It could be something they relate to. How you translate that into a solution then becomes a whole other thing.
So love, in essence, you're saying go back to the problem, because the problem morphs with the environment and with your target audience, depending at which stage of life they are at every given moment, at every given year. There's also something that you said prior that mentioned regulation, and that so you love the problem, you still go and do your due diligence in terms of research and understanding what am I continuously churning out as an entrepreneur to meet this need. But you also said regulation can also become that thing that becomes your roadblock every time. So how does an entrepreneur navigate regulation? And maybe you can just share, like, as you said, Jasiri helps entrepreneurs navigate. What does that look like?
So, in the case of programs like Jasiri, we have these different entrepreneurship support organizations, and their key role is to be able to help you understand the space that you're playing in, help you build the meaningful relationships with different stakeholders that would be pivotal to your success. So, as Jasiri, we help you understand the regulatory environment through different elements of the program support. So, for example, within the Growth Accelerator, which is our second program that supports early stage entrepreneurs, we help you navigate and understand your market through business advisory, for example, bringing in industry experts who are already working in this particular space to help you understand what are some of the expectations potentially from a regulatory perspective, what are some of the requirements you might need to put in place for you to be able to get operating licenses, what are some of the things that you would need to address internally for you in terms of a governance structure for you to be able to be compliant with what is the existing laws in terms of different sectors. Remember, startups are businesses, and businesses are already regulated by existing legislation. So if it's the tax code, if it's the labor codes around how to employ, how are you remaining compliant with some of this? So in some cases, you may have fallen in love with the problem, you may be engaging a market, you may be generating this levels of impact, this levels of commercial returns, but you also still need to be very cognizant of where the space you're playing in. Are you maintaining, or are you even potentially informing changes that could be relevant for your innovation, your business, and such businesses like yours to come? So we play a role by helping you, one, understand that, helping you navigate it too, and helping you create meaningful relationships with the relevant stakeholders who would be able to support you through this. Now, if you look at, I'll take a simple example. In the financial services space, it's very heavily regulated for obvious reasons, in the sense that you wouldn't want players coming in where they have ill intent in terms of access to resources from potentially different segments of the market, and it's unregulated. So in some cases, we've seen in previous cases of predatory lenders, for example, where you're perceiving your value proposition to be access to cheaper credit, but in the sense that the value proposition to the customer has hidden costs, has higher interest rates on repayment, making it truly unviable for them and making it predatory in that sense. So it helps to navigate regulation when you understand that there's certain guidelines and codes that businesses are expected to play in that create one value for the business, but also create societal value, create that ability for the problem that you're looking to address to be able to come smaller. So for us, we are a value-based organization, so we don't just support any and every entrepreneur aspiring to be. We'd like to fundamentally align to what we have as our intrinsic values and what we see as the fundamentals for ethical entrepreneurship.
It's quite amazing for me when I think about like the African landscape. Most times you have conversations around what can the government do? We need the government to create jobs. We need the young people out of the streets. We know many people are graduating universities and coming to sit and wait for opportunities. And there's something you mentioned that also caught my attention. I told you me and John were having convos. So you said that most of the time, governments don't have the muscle to actually create the job opportunities, but people who are venturing in the entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship field or space have that muscle. How do those two align, or what's the juice behind the those two aspects?
That is definitely a very good and deep question. So you see, governments tend to play the wrong hat. So you look to say that, we're looking for job creation. We're looking for opportunities for all the young people who are, as you've mentioned, graduating, all of the young people who are coming to the job market to be absorbed. But now what is interesting is the government then seeks to not support those who would be job creators. If we have a government that is looking at supporting job creation, it would then be focused on supporting entrepreneurs as the first step, because entrepreneurs are the platform where job creation happens. You go from having the vision as a sole founder or potentially a co-founding team to now starting to employ the first person and employ, you go from a team of 1 to a team of 5 to a team of 10, potentially, to a team of thousands. And it is only through entrepreneurship where this exponential job creation could occur. Because if you look at what already exists within the job market, the same government is turning to existing corporates to be able to continuously absorb these new generations of job seekers. Yet at the same time, it's not creating an enabling environment. And that speaks back to what I was mentioning earlier about regulation. The government should be startup friendly. It should be founder friendly in the sense that create a space where people can explore their ideas. These are ideas that definitely can change the lives of not just the direct consumers, but society in terms of also job creation, enabling people to earn meaningful and dignified lives, right? So if you look at what I think the government should be focused on is not looking at what the next level of job creation could be for them, but looking at how can you support entrepreneurs and startups to be able to scale and create these jobs, absorb these people, working with private sector. And private sector, not the traditional sense of corporates, but the new generation of private sector who is going to be startups, looking to see what is the different avenues that these startups can be able to grow. How do we help them go from one branch to 10 if it's in one county to all 47. So it's to say that in doing so you will then be addressing the job creation and the job absorption needs, but you will also be creating more value for society, because once these people are absorbed into the market, they then also play their role in society and supporting the different people who they would be supporting. So I believe like startups are definitely the platform the government should be looking into in terms of helping them scale, helping them grow, helping us build more startups as compared to looking at traditional corporates to be able to help address this need.
I think one of the things I've come to realize, especially being in the startup ecosystem, is excuse me, traditional corporates are already there. They've figured out a system, a way of doing things, and the startups are starting up like legit, but they're also quite aware of the now factor. I don't know, if, like the now factor in the sense of your corporates have been doing things this way. You establish your name, your brand, your market. People know you, people trust you. But the upcoming startups really understand the current pain points, because most startups actually that are emerging right now, it's because they've seen
Gaps.
a gap somewhere, and that gap is a pain point to ideally even the end user of the big corporate. It's still a pain point to your
Yes.
target as a big corporate. So how then do we create an ecosystem where the corporate still feels corporate-y, if I might put it that way, and comfortable with its place as a corporate, but still creating room for the startup to have its growth and to still scale in a space where there have been giants before and they are the ones who are coming up the ladder.
I think that would be a perfect world, because in essence, corporates are not too friendly towards startups because they fear disruption. They fear change of status quo. They fear the next startup coming to replace them and becoming the future corporate. I think in a perfect world, we would see corporates opening up their doors to supporting startups. And we do see this in some spaces where we have, entrepreneurship within the corporate, or you have corporate sandboxes where a corporate in a particular space is looking to understand deeper what some of the needs are, what some of the solutions emerging in the market could be. But in this this sense, it's more of a self-preservation. So I think for us to be able to have startups and navigate and scale to where we need to be, it's important to have strategic partnerships with corporates, but it is also important for other enabling stakeholders to be able to support equally these startups. Because if you look at corporates and the spaces they play in, government is very friendly to large institutions in terms of even the tax code. They tend to have more flexibility to very large players as they would have to smaller players. So shifting the balance on that and saying, why not focus on the ones that are likely to come up and be revolutionary as compared to what is already the status quo? Because like you mentioned, these startups are truly addressing the current needs, the now. They're looking to understand where the market is going. Corporates traditionally are slow to this process. They're happy with what they're doing, and to them, typically, it works. Why change the recipe? But we have startups who are looking to say, hey, why do we have to do it this way? Why don't we do it this way? Why don't we look at things from a different perspective? And it is through this different type of engagement that they're able to address truly the needs of the market as it emerges. And looking at even Jasiri as a program, we're focused on supporting startups that are not even looking at markets that are already engaged. So you're looking at different segments of populations that are not even considered by corporates. So it's very difficult to have a conversation, a strategic partnership with a corporate that had not had this particular segment of the market on its visibility or had not even considered that they were worth anything to look into. Now, us as the program and largely, entrepreneurship programs are tasked with the role to help bridge this gap. And we look to say, we are the nest where we want you to aspire, to grow, and to take flight. And for startups, I believe there's definitely opportunity much later down the line to engage with corporates, potentially even acquire. In some cases, traditionally we see corporates then acquiring startups just from a self-preservation need. But it'd be interesting to see startups in the future acquiring traditional corporates, right? Shifting the way of thinking, shifting the way things are done. And in this space that we play in, there's basically that year-old saying that goes, innovate or die, right? And it has forced corporates to shift from their traditional ways of thinking, the traditional ways of looking at things. And a simple example is, when's the last time you used a Yellow Pages book to look up anybody?
Let the fingers do the walking.
Right?
Now it's let the fingers do the scrolling.
100%.
Yeah.
And it's definitely, there's many examples of such. And that was a corporate at the time. That was a large institution at the time. That was a
True.
large brand.
Yeah.
But where is it today? Right.
You had a yellow page and you had made it in this life, people.
And yeah, I guess for those who don't know what Yellow Pages are,
Yeah.
it takes you back. So it's a typical example of what has come and what has come to pass. And looking at, supporting startups as the future, because currently you could look up anybody. If you're going to use AI tools, you're definitely going to understand who's in the room you want to connect with, who you need to connect with. And going forward, what value you can be able to create for that person. But if you look at Africa as a continent, we're not yet all the way there in terms of all of these resources being readily available. And I love, as an example, what Vambo AI is doing in terms of bringing in opportunities for people to engage with, African languages, be able to learn this, and building that cultural heritage for years to come, and doing it through a platform that, definitely is sustainable. Why do I say sustainable? Because AI definitely is the future, tech is the future, and looking at supporting such like startups, because your traditional corporate in this case would be a school, but how many people have access to that school? How many people have the ability to physically attend potentially? So I believe, I'm passionate, just startups are the next generation of change makers, the next frontier for us. And the more we look to them as the platform for growth, the faster we'll get to where we want to be. In Kenya, we used to look at Vision 2030 like it was, 100 years to come.
Yeah.
And in
Scary
2020
how.
and 25, it's 5 years away. And,
True.
we're starting to revisit what we set out to do. And did we really do it? Did we really focus on the right things? Did we bring the right people? To what extent could we have supported small and medium enterprise to help address some of the things that we wanted to do and maybe bring those visions to life much faster. And startups is something to do, because if you look at it now, communication, accessibility, information is prevalent. It's easy to be able to go online right now and learn anything.
Sure.
It's easy to access a market that you maybe traditionally couldn't have had. The level of inclusion, if you look at finances, is quite high in Kenya, right? The accessibility to technology is quite high. So using these different platforms to help you now address problems would be what we are keen to do. And we as Jasiri, it's amazing to see all of these amazing ideas. You mentioned, about everybody and everyone wanting to become an entrepreneur, but entrepreneurship is not just your ability to identify problems. It's your ability to transition this into vision. It's your ability to have, to share your vision with people, to have that level of buy-in from the different partners you'd need to work with, right? Whether it's your customers, your consumers, whether it's your, downstream inputs, upstream consumers, whatever it may be, it's just that level of you being able to sell your vision to those who will walk that journey with you and help you succeed.
Awesome. So I know Jasiri is currently running a program. You can share a little bit about the current program you're running, what it will entail, so that people who are watching and truly want to walk the entrepreneurship journey and be a startup for real can plug into it.
Great. So Jasiri has two main programs. We have the first one called the Talent Investor. And just from the name, it means we invest in talent. And from this, we seek to support highly competent individuals with a diverse set of skills to help them kickstart their entrepreneurship journey. And by this, we mean you've been thinking about starting a startup. You could have been dreaming about this particular, problem you want to look into, you're passionate about, or you've seen, many a time people go through it and you wanted to play a role in changing that narrative. And we support these kind of individuals to be able to start their journey. Currently, in our growth as an organization, we're supporting individuals from Kenya, Rwanda, and Ethiopia. And we're hoping, at one point in the near future to be able to do this across the continent. So if you're from these countries, you can apply to the program. What the program entails is you'll go through your foundational training on what entrepreneurship is, what the journey is, how to identify a problem. More importantly, you'll also have an opportunity to meet like-minded individuals like yourself in a cohort. And from this, you'll be able to, synchronize, match, get a co-founder who's passionate about a problem that you're passionate about and willing to walk the journey with you as you're willing to walk the journey with them. And from this, we support you with financial and non-financial resources to help accelerate that process, where now you're looking at the problem much deeper. You're starting to work on elementary solutions that you want to take to the market and helping you now start to build the foundation off of that. So Jasiri is basically plugging, especially for the talent investor, the negative one-to-one gap. So when I talk about negative one is where you're just thinking about this idea in your head, this problem that you keep engaging with, and taking you to zero where you're like, okay, I want to start, right? But now I don't have the support. And that's where we come in and say, okay, you're at zero now. We're going to start kicking you off with your journey. We're going to help you learn what is entrepreneurship, at least from a fundamental perspective, because there is essentials in every trade.
Sure.
And then giving you the opportunity to engage with relevant, like-minded individuals who would help you from a perspective of one, building your team, but more importantly, even building the partnerships externally that you would need to start. Then from that, the financial resources help you at least navigate that. So you should be fully committed and willing to take on this journey. It's a lifetime journey that we expect entrepreneurs to be on. So it's not a side hustle and then I'll go seek for a job much later.
Yeah.
It's more about, are you passionate enough? Are you willing to walk this journey? Are you willing to be the change maker that Africa needs to be able to take ourselves to the next level? And through this, they go through a 13-month program. And the objective of this is to get them with businesses that are ready to take different variations of their solutions to market and continue to build this and hopefully, grow and scale to become the brands of tomorrow. And the second program we have is the Growth Accelerator, which now supports you at the early stage phase. So you've already walked through your problem identification, you've built your prototype, you're getting early on market validation in terms of early on traction. So your traction could be, users engaging with the product, you're getting the feedback to change. They're also willing to support you by paying. It's great to have an amazing product, it's great to have an amazing solution, but to keep yourself sustainable, you definitely need to be generating some money.
ball game.
Yeah, and it's not just because of the focus of generating revenues, but it is showing the lens we take is building sustainability. So if you want to build a startup that's going to scale, it should be self-sustainable. So in the sense that your offering that you're putting to the market has enough buy-in from your consumers that they're willing to pay for these services. And for us, remember, we focus on underserved and non-consuming markets. So if it's a bit of I would say, a road less taken, a bit of a difficult journey, just because you have to understand deeply this problem, and you have to develop a solution that truly addresses the value that these particular people or market segments are looking to gain, right? And from this, it's something where we help you navigate through both programs and helping you get to a level where even future partnerships are willing to come on board. The essence of the Growth Accelerator is to create startups that are investor ready. And investor ready is a very broad term, but we look to de-risk you. We look to support you and continue to walk the journey with you, where future partners feel confident that this is a solution, this is a project or a startup that they would like to be associated with, and they do see value in terms of future gains, not just from a commercial side of view, but also the impact it has on our population.
Awesome. So I want you to mention one big win Jasiri has had in the course of the different cohorts it's had so far.
So one big win is very hard to pick. And the reason I say this is because we've had amazing
He's being
startups.
a good parent. He's like, I am burning bridges with
we love
enemy.
all our children. And, first of all, it's amazing to say that Jasiri so far has supported 230 entrepreneurs to build 90 ventures. So when you have 90 children, it's very hard to love one specific one, but we love them all.
I see why. So,
and what's amazing about these 90 ventures is they're operating in, about 28 subsectors of industry, agriculture, financial services, healthcare, and all of these solutions we believe and we're vested in. So that's why I would like to say that I'm backing all the 90 children.
So
right,
the big win is they have 90 children. 90. Who? Someone write on the comments and tell me who they know.
and what is
90
interesting,
prospering children.
Yes. And we value all of them because we've started the journeys with them, and we are seeing like the potential they have. So we're looking to transform that 90 into 500 plus, right? So by that time, I'll even have a harder time.
Grandpa.
I'd have a harder time to be able to speak through some of the success stories. But for those who are looking to get deeper information, please feel free to follow us on our pages, learn more about our ventures, learn more about the support we offer, and not just the support we offer, but also the role we play in the ecosystem. Our impact stories, we would like to say, are the brands of today and tomorrow. And we're looking to redefine entrepreneurship support. We're looking to be able to help entrepreneurs across the continent. We're looking to say that entrepreneurship is the platform for us to build future prosperity for the generations to come. We're looking to transform these 90 children into 500 and more, and looking to say that it is through programs like Jasiri that we were able to achieve the vision we have as a continent, and to see to play, our continent should be playing on the stage that it should be playing on. Most times we underplay and say that Africa is still behind in a lot of elements, but I think innovation has come to change that narrative. I think we're becoming more self-aware, we're becoming more self-reliant, and one way that we will do this is supporting entrepreneurs who are looking to bring these visions to life. And if you don't know, I mean, 2050, we will have 25% of the population. So that's a very big market. That's where everybody's going to start to turn and say, okay, right?
Where did them come from?
And do we really want to start saying in 2050, we've not looked back and said, what did we look to do? What did we want to do for ourselves at the time? I think acting now is the mantra, and acting now from all perspectives, supporting entrepreneurs, walking through with them, helping that person who wants to become an entrepreneur active, build their dream. And it is through this collective pool of dreams that we will realize the vision of Africa, right? I want the generations to come, to be able to look back and say, truly, it is through the forefathers that we are where we are, right? We don't want to always hear success stories from different continents, the prosperity of different continents. We want to take the lead, play a role. I mean, in sports, we're already doing this. So
true. It's viable. It's doable, people. I think for me, my parting shot is entrepreneurship is one of the streams. It's one of the oceans that Africa can truly utilize in days to come by supporting startups so that we create solutions for our people that are truly meaningful, but also help our economies scale in the long term.
100%. And there's this like saying I like to always look back on, and it says, we are Africa. Africa is our business. If we don't solve our pressing needs, who's going to come and save us, right? So if we don't want to play second fiddle in our own issues, our own lives, we should take front, right?
Awesome. Africa is our business. And with that, we close this episode of Vambo AI in Africa. Have you seen it? I hope you did. And until next time, kindly follow us, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. And John has no other option but to tell all his 90 grandchildren to follow Vambo AI.
I do. And to tell everybody on Vambo AI, the Jasiri is there for you to be able to, relive your dream, build your dream.
Oh my God. Okay, I don't want to cry, people. So bye till the next time.